reflects the culture too. His words there, that people do tend to put sometimes their favorite musicians or their television or their pocketbook kind of above other spiritual things. Whether you're a religious person or not, there are certain things in your life that are probably more important than others, and you might be putting some things above them that you probably shouldn't. But
right.
That's all our own business, I suppose. So, going down the list here, see if there's any other really good ones. I always pick out a few. There's always a whole bunch of things that happen, but I only like to pick out a few here. And it looks like that was pretty much the best stuff that happened today.
Cool.
So, there you go. Ain't nothing but a hound dog.
What year was the hound dog, Spider?
1956.
Okay. Yeah, and as you said that, I just thought of one little thing I was going to say. He did that song called Teddy Bear, too. Remember that song? And the reason that sticks in my mind is I was at a club up in the Valley, which is on the north side of Hollywood, up on Ventura Boulevard. Had a club up there, and the guy was playing the piano. I think he was a black guy, African-American. But he was playing that song, and he said, actually, he was the writer of that song. But he's not famous. He's playing a little out in the Valley. But, hopefully he gets his royalties on that song.
That kind of thing did happen quite a bit back then, because it used to be most songs were things like folk songs or were just sung out for good times, and people borrowed songs quite a bit up until the 60s and 70s, when people started to get really kind of possessive, like, hey, I wrote this song and it's my art, or it's my paycheck, or it's whatever. And we're artists, we have every right to be concerned with things that we've created and whatnot, but before people really took conscious notice of this kind of thing, there wasn't anything in place for that. So unfortunately, there probably are still a few holdouts like that gentleman, where he wrote a song, an artist that we know and love and everybody can name by heart got famous, and unfortunately this person didn't. And maybe, hopefully one day they'll get their dues.
They used to do things like a buyout, too. We're going to give. I mean, I've heard that famous story from actually giving like a black songwriter artist that had done a song. Here's a Cadillac car, for your song. That's great. The guy thinks this is great. He gets a great deal. Then they go on and make a hit record and make big bucks, but he sold it out. One thing, so that could have been the case with this guy, because he definitely wasn't rolling, and that was quite a popular song. You should have great royalties from that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
There's bad parts of the music industry. People do things like that. So you always have to watch out. And you're a recording artist too, Spider. So I'm sure you know what goes on, and have to fight for yourself and make sure you get out there. Nowadays with the whole digital era. I mean, is it okay that I talk? Just kind of jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
In this whole era with the digital age now, in the old days, it was easy. You get an album, the artist gets maybe 10% royalty off the $10, so they're going to get $1. That's great. And then things go around. They make the artist pay for their recording fees. But you had something like that. But now, people stopped buying albums. So that whole thing stopped. And now we have the digital era of Spotify, Rhapsody, Deezer, all these things, where they pay fractional cents of the people that do report per play on that station. And so it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, the streaming people like Spotify, it's cheaper and easier for them just to pay each of these individual artists do like a streaming fee of some kind, maybe monthly, maybe yearly, to their record label or whatnot, than it is for all of these various people to purchase everything. So they figure, oh yeah, well, these people will go through us, we'll make money, the artist will get heard, etc., etc. Everybody's happy, but the artist is getting heard, but they're not putting food on the table. So it's very difficult to really reconcile that kind of thing. I mean, it's convenient, sure, but there's something to be said for our artists remaining fed and able to care for their families so that they can create more of that art.
Right. So it's not really a problem of the consumer. I used to blame it maybe on the consumer, saying, oh, listen, but it's not them. It's that these institutions can give it away, basically. Mm. And the performing rights societies like ASCAP and BMI are fighting this with the Department of Justice, and because the old copyright laws allowed loopholes where organizations can do that, and they make tons of money from this. They have their lawyers fighting. So recently, the Department of Justice ruled in the favor of the Spotifys and Rhapsodies and Pandoras that they can do that, and so the battle goes on.
Mm. Even worse, too, if for artists that decide, oh yeah, okay, I don't want to do the digital thing, I'm going to stick to physical product, physical CDs and physical albums. These days, as soon as an album goes from the artist to the distribution center to get duplicated and prepared to go off to stores, it potentially falls into someone's hands to pull the tracks off, and they go home from work that night anonymously and put the album online for free.
All right. It's so easy. I was so surprised that even PCs, they have the ripping software on there. Put your CD in and take those songs off and convert them to digital. Now you can send them to anybody you wanted to.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's been some crackdown on that, of course, but that's for people who've been sharing maybe hundreds of thousands of songs. There's people who share just individual albums here and there that, they're under the radar. And there's really no way to stop that kind of behavior, because now that the technology's out. And it's everyone in the entire industry kind of has to come up with a new model and play catch-up and figure out how to keep the people who want the music wanting that music, but keep the artists and the infrastructure all in place to provide that.
Yeah, and it's virtually impossible to do that. I remember in the days of the Rock Dog album, I just merely sent them to the radio stations. I had a radio promoter out of New York doing that. But I would just go on the internet and check things out sometimes, and I never sent it, but something on the College 500. My song was number 1 on the College 500 in the spring of 2003, heavy rotation. I go, what is that? I didn't give them the permission. They had the song up there and the whole thing. I go, oh my gosh, nobody even told me. I didn't give permission. They did the whole thing. But so it's totally out of your control. And films have the same problem, where once you put it out on the internet, it can be just out. And you don't have those sales that you thought you were going to have. So Hollywood's been doing lots of things, and this is for years. I go to something called the American Film Festival. It's held here in, it's actually a marketplace, where international film makers come from all around the world, meet up in Santa Monica, and sell their films. And I go to the panels and discussions, and they're all worried, have been for years, how do you put a lid on this? You're not going to sell the number of copies that you thought you were going to do, because people are just going to take them and share them and like that. So the music industry and the film industry are the same in that regard. But there's no way. They're trying to stop it. Actually, I can remember one discussion that I was in there, and this manufacturer came up and they said, well, here's what we do. We've told the people that there is a bug in the DVD, and if you try to copy this to your PC, it will put a virus into your PC and destroy your data. So they used that fear, put the fear. I don't know if it was really there or not, but it would make somebody think twice about it. Like, maybe I'm not going to do that. Maybe there is something harmful in that.
Yeah, but then you get techies out there who will actually dare it and try it and try to buff it.
Yeah.
So not buff it, bunk it. Try to bunk it.
Yeah.
And then once they bunk it, it is all through the internet saying, no, they don't do this at all. It's just a hoax just to get you guys to not burn it.
You can kind of see the effects already. The film industry has changed a bit to do what they can to play catch up. Mm-hmm. And it's that, whereas it used to be you'd go see a movie in theaters, and if it came out on a videotape or even a DVD later on, it was usually several months later. It wasn't an immediate turnaround. It stayed in the theater for quite a long time.
Right.
Eventually it would get to a portable format when they were pretty sure that the profits were low enough. But now, a Blu-ray will show up on the shelves within sometimes a week, 2 weeks after the film has been in theaters, after the opening numbers, because they know if they don't provide a high-quality copy out there immediately, then somebody's going to have bootleg copies out there taking all of their initial movie theater rights or profits and everything right off the bat. So they've kind of adapted a little bit, which is kind of smart. I mean, I like buying my movies. I still like having a physical product and everything that I can put on a shelf and things like that. And it's nice to be able to get them relatively quickly now that I can't go to the theater as often with my little girl. So, whereas before, you see a new movie that you really, really want to see, and, well, you wait 2 months, and eventually you'll get a copy of it. Now you can go pick up a copy. So it's convenient, but then you also still have to think, well, how much of an impact is that making on everybody who made the movie? And every summer there's a new box office record for the next summer movie that came out, smashing the one before. And that number just climbs higher and higher because it has to. Because everything's inflating now because to cover all these costs, and whether these costs are applicable or not, who knows? But eventually there's going to be a top ceiling to it, and the whole thing is just going to either crumble out of nowhere and bottom out, or I don't think it'll stabilize. Honestly, I think there's going to be some kind of major issue at some point, but I really don't know what that would entail. Honestly, if the industry would go on strike, what would happen? It's kind of a really uncertain landscape as far as that goes.
Yeah, and what I've seen around LA here is that the theater attendance, was kind of waning for a while, and a lot of theaters now are putting in recliner chairs and make more of an experience to go there. Maybe serving food, also the recliners, to try to make it something more special. So many people have big screen TVs at home, bigger and bigger, cheaper and cheaper. So people can get that experience at home, so they have to try to outdo that home experience now. Make that theater something to fill those seats and get people out there. So, but yeah, you're right. I think that they know that bootleg copy might be coming out, so let's get ours out now. Get ahead of the game.
All right, so we need to regroup and take a small little break. So when we arrive back, we'll be playing one of Johnny Reed's song, Little Tattoos. So do not go away. I see you. Don't do it, man.
Well, that was some boring music.
Spike?
Come on, where's the Justin Bieber? Where's the Katy Perry? Where's the Fall Out Boy?
Noddle, you have witch powers. Turn him into a chipmunk and feed him to the owl outside.
I will do no such thing. We're here to talk about our website.
HomeCanineNeutering.com?
What?
No! InvaderPet.com, where people can check out our comic strips or locate bookstores selling bookmarks with our comics on them. So, listeners, want to see comics of me, Noddle the Witch, my pets Kaylee Cat and Spike Beagle? Go to InvaderPet.com and check us out.
Seriously, though, you guys really have a canine neutering
Magical
website?
Things offers fantasy art for festival and everyday living. featuring the fine arts